Good evening, everyone. I'm Ichha Bhan, and I heartily welcome all of you to Managing Anxiety Part 1 by Holistic Wellness. This COVID 19 pandemic has caused a lot of stress and disarray in our lives. Plans have been on hold, careers have been stalled, and that has caused all of us here a lot of anxiety and confusion. It is important to note that while coronavirus is the cause of the pandemic, mental illnesses such as burnout, depression, anxiety, etc., are also of pandemic proportions. It is about time we, the youth, help and seek support through this tough time. Due to all the chaos, the young folk have been suffering intensely from a lack of clarity and direction in their lives. Therefore, it is important to bring this discussion to the table. Today, we have with us a very special guest and someone who is my personal inspiration. It is my greatest joy to introduce to you Hasitha Illa. Hasitha is a biotechnology engineer from DY Patil University, Pune. She is a disability and mental health activist, public speaker, content curator, blogger, and heartfulness practitioner. He was diagnosed with a neurological illness known as Friedreich's ataxia. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. At the age of 10. She has been motivated to spread awareness and destigmatize disability and mental health. Hasitha wears a lot of hats, and today she is going to talk about the pandemic and its effects on mental health in the past year. We also have a dedicated Q&A session. Keep your questions coming through the chat box. We will address them towards the end of the session. Welcome, Hasitha. We're so glad to have you here with us today.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi, Hasitha.
Hi. How are
Yes,
you?
I can. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I think my internet is a little slow. I'm so sorry, but you can go ahead. I'm great, Hasitha. How are you?
I'm also doing great. Thank you for having me in this live once
It's
again.
absolutely, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out.
Yes.
All right. So I'd like to start this session off by asking you, how has the past year been for you physically and mentally?
Uh, the pandemic itself was difficult for everyone. You must agree that it was difficult for everyone, every single person. And for me personally, I just completed my BTech. So like I was already on a new life to start my new life after my college. I wanted to either go into MTech or like go and search for a job kind of thing. But because of COVID, all of that and my future and like everything was on a pause. Obviously, it was for everyone, right? So initially, it was a bit difficult. That was one side of the pandemic that my future became a pause kind of thing. So dealing with that was a bit difficult. Like I was constantly like, will I be able to do something in the future kind of thing. So that was there in the back of my mind. But apart from that, like I ventured into YouTube and I started my advocacy during the pandemic itself. So like I guess like on the positive side, the pandemic helped open my creative side and I was able to do YouTube and like do all this advocacy and stuff which I was passionate about. So that was a plus about the pandemic, I would say, because I had so much time. I had so much time. So like I was able to do a lot of things. I was able to channel my creative energy, I guess you would call it. But yeah, that's what I did during the pandemic. And it's like both sides, but you try to focus on the positive side. But yeah, that's how my pandemic was. But for many people, like people's jobs were difficult worldwide for like every single person, like small businesses and like everyone. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And you're absolutely right. There are two sides to the coin. There's always some advantage and there's always something to look forward to with a crisis, but there's also a lot of negativity that comes with it. So it's a matter of kind of channelizing it.
Balancing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so this brings me to my next question. What did you think about the lockdown and what were its effects on you and your friends or on other young people that you were in touch with? How was that experience for you and your friends per se or people you were in touch with?
So before lockdown, I was completely a free bird kind of thing. I was in hostel in my college, so like I used to go out and like that was kind of my lifestyle before lockdown. And after lockdown kind of did hit me because I love to go out and like I guess I would call myself an extrovert. I don't know. But I love to go out. I'm definitely not an introvert. So the lockdown was kind of difficult. But the thing is, when with a disability, you kind of have this advantage compared to other people. You can like adapt yourself to the situations better, which I've already been doing since a long time. So the lockdown was just like another situation which I had to adapt. So I would say that I was already experienced with I was already hit with something that was not in control. So like I was pretty like I knew what to do and like it didn't really affect me as much as it affected my peers or other people, I would say.
Right. Absolutely. And that's where resilience comes in. So I think
Yeah,
all the challenges so far that you've faced have probably, in a way, sort of paved the way to deal with this pandemic
yeah,
in a better
exactly.
way. So I think that's
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, that's
yeah.
brilliant. Thank you. Um, all right. So this is in a slightly different direction. What did you think of the constant negativity in the news and the media? How did that affect you?
Um, I have a simple answer for this. I stopped watching the news like one day one itself. Maybe sometimes like kabhi kabhi I will watch I won't watch, like my dad will tell me what's happening. Like if I get to know, I'll get to know, but otherwise I don't go and like look at the news constantly. Like that's something that I stopped thinking or looking at. So like I'm not really aware of the news, and I'm aware that there's a lot of negative things happening around right now, but then I think our mental health is more important than knowing about all these things and like becoming anxious about it. So I stopped watching the news long back. Yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, I'm in the same boat. That's exactly what I did. I stopped
Ah,
looking at the news and I completely tuned off it, but I would get the main headlines to understand what was
yeah.
going on. Um, I think that's a brilliant strategy. It really helped. Um, all right. This is now, I think a lot of us would want to know as well, or a lot of people who maybe would like to understand more about you or more about what you advocate and what you like to tell followers. What is it that what do you offer as emotional support to your followers and close ones? How were you able to do that through this pandemic? Especially the people who have been affected.
I think technology has played a big role because before we didn't have all these like video calls and like what we're doing now, Zoom and like all these, like it's become so easy to lend an ear to your close friends or like talk with them. It's become so easy with like video calling, and normal calling has also become super easy. Like back in the day, my parents would write notes and letters and stuff. So if that was the position right now, I think it would have been more difficult. But with the technology, yeah, it's become so easier to lend an ear, even though because even though you're like millions of kilometers away or like in a different state, different country, like it's become so easy. So like I think the important thing is just to listen to whatever they're going through, and that just plays a big thing for them, like knowing that there's someone who's listening, that just plays a big role for people. So
Absolutely.
that's not something that many people do.
Yeah,
But
it's it also brings about the importance of
yeah.
it also brings about the importance of human connection. And I think in a time where we were confined, we were able to create that connection in so many different ways through technology. So I think that's one way it's helped as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. Um, the next question we have is, what techniques or ways do you have to monitor your mental health and stress?
um I usually, like you said, I'm a heartfulness practitioner. So I think heartfulness really helped me with keeping my like constant and like giving me a balance. I Because during lockdown I became a bit more constant and consistent with my practice. So that has helped my mental health, I would say. But apart from that, another thing I learned is that as humans, like we tend to have so many emotions, so it's not fair that we expect ourselves to always be happy. That's not fair. Like that's something that's not gonna happen. And when you're sad or like when you're anxious, I think the best thing you can do is acknowledge it and not force yourself to be happy, and let yourself be sad, let yourself feel those emotions. And as long as they don't empower you and like uh, overpower you throughout the next day and stuff, I think that's normal. And that's something I've learned during the pandemic and lockdown, and that's what I've been doing. So
I totally agree with you.
you shouldn't expect that. You shouldn't expect yourself to be like happy all the time. Like that's just not possible. That's
Right.
not
And
possible.
that causes a little bit of stress, right? If you keep thinking about, oh, I shouldn't be feeling sad, I shouldn't be feeling all
Yeah,
these things.
yeah,
It
exactly.
also
And we should
reminds me,
acknowledge it.
I'm so sorry, but yeah, we should absolutely. It also reminds me of the Inside Out movie. So if the audience has seen it, they'll relate. But initially, the emotion joy or the character joy is, really, she's really wary of sadness, and she's like, no, 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 don't touch this memory or don't touch that memory. But eventually, by the end of it, you realize how important even feeling sad is. It's a form of catharsis, you're releasing. So it's important to feel that and experience it.
Exactly.
Um, so the next question is, how do you manage working from home? How do you manage the work and life balance?
So I got lucky that I've gotten a job. Like I've been put into a job recently, so it's just like work from home is very hectic. Obviously, people are gonna be like, I wish that it would be like you can go to office and stuff, but you just have to remind yourself that the condition is like that outside, so that won't be possible, and we have to just, I don't know, like try to be sane.
Right. So probably the only way to get through it is
It's
to go
very
through it.
difficult, but yeah, the way you get through it is go through it. So it's you can't do anything. It's just how life has become. So like just go with the flow. That's all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I totally feel that. I
I
feel it.
do I become insane? Sometimes yes. But I try to be sane kabhi kabhi. So that's all that
Right.
matters. Like you just keep on going. Go
Absolutely.
towards.
And this is where resilience comes in as well. So
Yeah.
it's a good power play, a balance with all of these things. Um, what would you like to say to young people already suffering from anxiety or depression prior to the pandemic? Is there anything, any words that you would like to share?
For people people who are having like any mental issues or anything, I just want to say one thing, that you have to be patient because it's not something that's gonna change overnight. It's gonna take a while, but you have to be patient with yourself. And if you constantly work on it, it's gonna happen, but it's gonna take time. That's all I wanna say. I don't think it's an overnight thing. It's gonna take a lot of time. But in the end it will be totally worth it. So just keep going and keep going. That's all I say.
Keep swimming, as Dory would say. Keep moving forward.
Yes.
Right. It's a journey. Something that requires persistence and, as much as you can, faith. Move forward. Absolutely. So our next question is, how with what was
Exactly.
going on globally?
You got cut. Hello?
Hello? Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
You got
And
cut. You
I
got
got
cut.
cut. All right. So I'll repeat my question. I apologize for my internet. I don't know what is happening. Um, how did your meditation practice help you cope with what is going on globally?
Uh, Meditation made me a bit more sane in this very ridiculous situation that all of us are facing right now. I think meditation really helped me like not be as stressful as I think I would have been if I didn't have meditation. I would have been more anxious and more been a balance. It's balanced right now, so I think it's very important having that consistent practice, and doing it is very important. Maybe reading books of the mission, that's also something nice. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes you can't really explain what exactly it is, but it's some power that helps you get through, I think. Um, all right. So Our next question is, what would you like to tell people who feel anxious or lonely in times when they're forced to be distant?
Huh?
What would you like to
Can you
tell?
repeat what you said?
Yes, absolutely. So, what would you like to tell people who feel anxious or lonely? Are there any tips or practices that have
Oh
helped
no.
you or your close ones?
Um, I I think this heartfulness meditation has played a major role in my life. It played a super big role, like me being this confident and like being so courageous and all that. I think heartfulness played like 80% of what I am now is because of heartfulness only. So like if there's a tip that I would give, then that would be to join and take those three sittings because those change your life. Like once you take those three sittings, heartfulness will never leave you, even though you might take a break in between or something. Someday or the other, you'll come back to it, and it will just be there with you forever. So take those three settings is what I would say.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. Even if you break it, it'll always be there for you. That's so true. Like unconditional love, right? Like there's no conditions on it. Once you commit, it's
Yeah,
there.
because there was a time when I took a break in my yeah, there was so many days when I took a break in my meditation, and like during college also I was not consistent. So like, but still like there was so many after effects of it. Even though I was not like a super consistent person, like there were so many drastic changes that I felt. So that's why I said what I said.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a beautiful message to leave. Um, and lastly, before we go to the next segment of this session, is there any final message that you would like to give our young audience? Anything at all?
Yeah, just one is to go with the flow, and the second thing is you might be in a very tough place right now, but then just hold tight and keep going on with your life, and there will be a time when the situation will change. Like definitely that's gonna happen. Just keep on waiting and keep on going with your life and never give up. So all I wanna say in these tough times.
Thank you so much, Hasita, for all your beautiful and wonderful gems that you've left with us today. That was a very insightful discussion. Thank you for enlightening us with your experiences. We are definitely together, all of us, and that support that we give each other is just as important. And it's important to note that that connection won't go, once it's created. We would now like to move
Yeah,
on to
yeah.
we would now like to move on to the Q&A section of today's event. Sorry, just give me a minute. All right. So our first question from the audience for you today is, how do you always remain positive and stay motivated?
Uh, when it comes to positivity, that's the thing. Like I don't always stay positive. Like that's not something that's possible. Like I said earlier, something that you can do forever and like every day. So it's just like it's a matter of balancing your highs and lows, and I think that's important that we acknowledge it, like I said earlier, with the positive. motivating, and I stay motivated. My parents, I think, looking at them keeps me motivated, and my mission, the mission that I want to change people's perception and like bring awareness to people is something that I'm very passionate about. So like that keeps me motivated.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I think it's important to understand as well, as you rightly said, that you cannot remain positive throughout, but being positive is also acknowledging that something is bothering you and knowing that you can move on from it. So that's also being positive.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
thank you for sharing that. That's really important. Um, the next question from our audience is: do you think social media creates more anxiety? How do we curb that?
Uh, I think with social media, it depends on who you're following. For people who give you bad vibes or like who you don't connect with, then I don't think it's proper for you to follow them. But it really depends on who you're following, because before also, like, I used to feel bad if I would unfollow someone because I used to feel a bit anxious or something, but that's not the case. Like, you should put your mental health first and follow and watch content that makes you happy or like makes you feel full, I guess. So that's something I've been doing, and I urge everyone to do that as well.
I think that's a brilliant strategy, one that I use myself. It's unfortunately or fortunately, it's a huge sea of information, and it's up to us which direction to swim in. So it's a choice that we make,
Exactly.
what to give
It depends
ourselves.
on us and how we use the content.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this question I really like. I personally really like this question. I'm so excited to hear your views on this. What is your vision for mental health awareness? What change do you want to see in the way that mental health is handled?
Um, well, for me, mental health, like since I was a child, like I used to treat mental health as something that was not as important as your physical health. Because when I was a child, like obviously my physical health is not the best, right? So like I was focusing on the physical health, and I totally neglected my mental health. And at the time, I didn't know its importance. But now that I do, I think it's important that we start it in school. That would be so cool, don't you think? Like starting mental health in school and like keeping it as a proper subject instead of like making people mug off like from the textbook. I think it's more important that we talk about mental health. I think it's so important, especially in schools. So
Absolutely.
that could be cool.
It really is. I totally resonate with this. It's so important to start teaching them or teaching kids at a young age that look, there are different ways that you can
Mhm.
work on yourself, it's not just one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
You're not defined by one thing, and or your
Exactly.
academics or whatever. You're defined by so much more.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, how would you innovate yourself going forward? Is a question from our audience.
How would you innovate? Like, how would I change myself?
Yeah, or how would you maybe create new things to do, or how do you see um, your uh, content or whatever it is that you're doing? How do you see it blowing up even more, or how do you see it changing or altering in any way?
about the future you're trying to say. That
Yeah.
is something that I'm trying not to think much about. Like that is something that my content a bit, and like that is something I want to do. Freshen my skills, maybe of speaking and you know. So yeah.
I think I'm always one to sort of look at what I can sort of improve as well going forward. So I totally understand where all of this is coming from, and I appreciate that you're able to share it with us. I know it's not easy for a lot of people to do so. Maybe I don't know. Um, we have one more interest. We have an interesting question here. How do you find your passion?
I did find my passion. My passion found me. My passion found me, I would say, because I've been living it my whole life. I've been living with all this like things with society and like stuff that we go through, and most people don't know about it. So that's that's one of the reasons why in India, especially, it's such a stigma, it's such a taboo to talk about disability and like so many other things. So that's something not to be ashamed about, and it's something that I want to talk about. I think it's you need to talk about. So
Absolutely. Um, I think sometimes I actually relate a lot to what you're saying, even if you don't have a definite or the the general definition of a passion. If you don't have that, you could always create it out of something that you're doing, maybe something that you believe in strongly that you want to take forward. That could also be a passion, maybe not in the traditional sense, but in a different way, something that you're good at and you want to take forward.
yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
resonate with that. um, we have one last question for the evening, or morning, wherever everyone is watching from. What is happiness to you?
I missed your question. You got cut.
Oh, oh, I'm so sorry about that. The question is, what is happiness for you?
Happiness. What is happiness for me? I think happiness is in the little things. Like when growing up, like I thought happiness was something which was very big and like something very, prominent or something. But I think you can find I find happiness in the little things in life. So
I am the same way, and I like to call it counting my blessings. And it's
yeah,
nice
exactly.
because I have a lot of different little things to look back at and say, oh, you know what, this was nice. I had a good time here. So it's nice. It's always nice to count the small things. Thank you for sharing this with us, Hasita.
Exactly, exactly.
It's been wonderful. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to do this with you.
I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of today's wonderful session. Again, thank you so much, Hasita, for being the force of nature that you are. We've learned so much from you today. Always continue to inspire us and spread your love and kindness. Please follow
Exactly.
Hasitha Illa on her Instagram and YouTube pages. All of us here are one large community, and it is during times like these we are stronger together. Thank you for taking the time to tune into today's session. We really, really appreciate it. We hope you have had some motivating takeaways from this event. And please do remember, we're all in it together. Please continue to follow Infinite Youth on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And please follow our Holistic Wellness Facebook page. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.